Welcome to Inspiration and Transformation from the Banks of the Ganga with Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati, an American sannyasi living at the Parmarth Niketan Ashram in Rishikesh, India. Sadhvi is president of the Divine Shakti Foundation, a charitable organization bringing education, vocational training, upliftment, and empowerment programs to women and children. Sadhvi is also Secretary General of the Global Interfaith Wash Alliance and Director of the world-famous International Yoga Festival. Join the musings of an American sannyasi as Sadhvi shares the wisdom and teachings of her guru, His Holiness Pujya Swami Chidanand Saraswatiji.
Welcome everyone to Inspiration and Transformation from the holy banks of the sacred Ganga River in the land of Rishikesh, India. What is the absolute worst thing we could ever do? The absolute worst thing we could ever do. It would be, I think, to deny who we are and why we're here. Because anything external, so if we say, well, the worst thing you could do is murder someone, I think most of us could agree that's probably like the worst thing most of us could think of that you could actually do. But if you take that on a deeper level, the reason that we commit horrible atrocities like that is out of ignorance. Ignorance of who we are, ignorance of the nature of the universe. I feel anger, hatred, jealousy, all of the things that would lead you to lie, cheat, steal, harm, murder. We feel all of that because we forget who we are and why we're here. As long as we think that we are just the body, that we are just the story, that we are just the role, well, we're gonna harm ourselves by not actually experiencing the truth of who we are. And we're going to move through the world in harm. Doesn't mean we're going to become murderers. That takes a special kind of hatred and ignorance and crazy. But we're going to harm others because without recognizing that every single person is divine, without recognizing that core divine truth in all, we treat people like objects. And we treat them like objects to be either used, oh, this one's going to be very helpful to get where I need to go, to do what I need, good stepping stone, or we see them as obstacles. This one is an obstacle on my path. Need to get this person out of my way. So as long as we see people as objects, either we're using them or we're pushing them away. In both cases, we're harming them. And on the deepest level, regardless of what we do in the outer world, we are harming ourselves because we are creating God knows how many lifetimes worth of trouble for ourselves by not knowing who we are, and living in ignorance. Imagine that you've been given a very precious gift by someone who loves you. Precious, precious gift. Now, imagine that someone asks you, what's the worst thing you could possibly do with that gift? Well, there's two answers. One answer is forget about it entirely. Someone who loved you gave you this precious, precious, precious gift. Worst thing to do would be to throw it in the back of your closet and pretend it doesn't exist. Neglect it entirely. The other would be to take that gift and actively use it to harm someone. So let's say someone gives me a precious diamond necklace out of deep love and devotion. And I stick it in my closet and I pretend that I never got it. Well, it's harming the bhav, the love of the person who gave it to me. It's harming the oneness of that connection between the person who gave it to me and myself. So that would be one worst thing I could do, is just ignore it entirely. The other worst thing I could do would be to take the diamond necklace and go out and strangle someone else with it. Now, in our lives, this life is that gift. This life is that diamond necklace or beautiful artwork or whatever to you the most perfect, best gift would be. New flat screen TV, new, iPhone 13, whatever in your mind you think, God, if I just had that. So someone gives it to you. Someone who really loves you. Well, this life is the best gift. And it's been given to us by God, who loves us in the most complete, powerful way. So for us to ignore this gift of our life is like putting it in the closet and forgetting it and pretending it doesn't exist. For us to pretend, to deny that this life, every minute, every moment is precious, is harm. It's harm to ourself. It's harm to the connection between us and God. Because if God's given me something and I consciously decide to deny it and ignore it, well, obviously, I've just created separation between me and the one who gave it to me. But also, if I use this gift to harm someone else by objectifying them, by cheating them, lying to them, abusing them, insulting them, treating them with greed or lust, well, that's like taking the diamond necklace and strangling someone with it, right? It's the gift you've been given and you're using it to harm someone else. Not only are you not recognizing it for what it is, but then you're using it to harm others. So it all comes down to that place we started, which is the worst thing we can do is deny the truth of who we are. Deny this extraordinary gift of a human life being embodied by soul, spirit, divinity. The truth of us is divine, but the gift of being able to have this human body so that we have the possibility of recognizing the divine in us. The core of an earthworm is also divine. The core of a dog is divine. The core of a monkey is divine. every being on earth, the core is divine. It's like the line from the Upanishads I always recite that says, Isha vasyamidam sarvam, yat kincha jagatyam jagat. Everything in the universe is pervaded by the divine. There is nothing, no one, not pervaded by the divine. The earthworm, the dog, the cat, the monkey, us, the blade of grass, the tree. They're all divine. The difference is the level of consciousness. So chances are the earthworm is not able to have awareness that it's divine. It's not able to get out of earthworm consciousness. It's just, I'm an earthworm. It's just kind of the beginning and the end of its consciousness. The animal kingdom is like that. Even the really sweet, wonderful animals who are kind and helpful, loving, they don't have the consciousness to be able to get out of their dog consciousness or cat consciousness. They may be loving and sweet and wonderful, nicer than humans in many cases. But nonetheless, they're not able to break out of dog consciousness into divine consciousness. That's why it's said that the human birth is this greatest gift, because in the human birth is the only birth where we have the opportunity to know that I'm here in a human body, but to break out of just physical human consciousness, to break out of the consciousness of just the body that's born and dies, into the consciousness of that which I am, pervaded by the divine. So we're not more divine or better divine than an earthworm. We just have the gift of being able to be more conscious, and therefore have the possibility of actually experiencing it. So this birth is a gift. And to deny it, I think, is the greatest, or the worst thing we can do. But of course, as I always remind myself and others, the universe is very patient. You blow it this time, okay, you'll just come back and do it again. Blow it that time, okay, you'll just come back and do it again. But why bother? Why not get it right? Not just because it makes the cycle of birth and death faster, but it gives us the opportunity to actually experience heaven here on earth. When we deny who we are, we suffer. We suffer. Anger is suffering. Hatred is suffering. Jealousy is suffering. Competition is suffering. When we experience those, we are suffering. So when we have the possibility to not suffer, why would we choose suffering? So let's all stop doing the worst thing that too many of us do, and really commit ourselves to finding the truth of who we are, to experiencing it, rather than denying it.
You're listening to OTR FM, part of the IOM Radio Network.
Being a radio host on IOM FM allows you to build your show on a rich platform with the power of the internet to fulfill your outreach goals and connect with a very specialized and global online audience, unlimited by time and distance. OMTimes Radio will provide you with web relevance, a recognizable conscious brand, and with the standard of excellence that has accompanied every single
Circle of Hearts Radio is a sanctuary on the airwaves. Join me, Grandmother Alaya, in the circle on Sunday 2 p.m. Eastern as I share information to both enlighten and nourish your soul.
Hi, this is Christina Ricci with RAIN. Every 2 minutes, another American is sexually assaulted. If you or someone you know has been sexually assaulted, you are not alone. Help is just a call or click away through the National Sexual Assault Hotline. Please call 1-800-656-HOPE, that's HOPE, or visit rain.org, that's RAINN.org.
Brought to you by RAIN and this station.
Welcome back to Inspiration and Transformation. I'm so glad to have you all back here with me. So, we're coming out of, hopefully by God's grace, the COVID pandemic. The COVID pandemic taught us a lot of things on a very deep spiritual level. It also taught us a lot on just a basic logistic level, pragmatic level. If I want to stay healthy, if I want to stay safe, what are the rules, right? Maintain social distance, right? Wear your mask. Wash your hands, right? 3 basic, easy things to take care of my physical health and stay safe. If someone is not well, if someone has tested COVID positive, well, then the rules get even stricter, right? Then that person is supposed to actually quarantine. And if you have to be around them, if you are in a house with them, then there's all kinds of rules about double masking, much more than 6-foot distances. And we've all done it, even with people we love the most in the world, even with family members, close family members, children, parents, spouses. Because we knew that we needed to do it in order to stay safe. There were so many houses across the world, so many people I know where one member of the family was some kind of a frontline worker, a doctor, a nurse, working in an NGO. They were out, they were constantly being exposed. And for months, they didn't even meet the rest of their family in the house. Like they would enter the garage and, go into their room and not meet because they didn't want to expose the rest of the family. Now, why do I give you this example when you ask about friends who aren't good influences? Because along with our physical immunity, we're not just physical beings. We're not just cells that get invaded by a virus or a bacteria and get some degree of illness. We're energetic beings. And as energetic beings, we need to protect our energy. And in order to protect our energy, we do a lot of things. There's places that we don't necessarily go to. There's music that we wouldn't necessarily listen to, movies we wouldn't see, right? As you start on a spiritual path and you start living a sattvic life, maybe you stop going to see those blood and guts, horrible violence horror movies, right? Because it impacts the energy of my being, like I feel different in them. Hopefully you'll stop, watching pornography. especially like violent pornography. Because you understand it impacts my energy in a way that's really not in alignment with where I'm going. And there are people whose choices in life, whose way of being in the world isn't in alignment energetically with where we're going. It doesn't make them bad people. It doesn't make them wrong. It just means that their values, their ethics, their energy, their vocabulary, their choices are not in alignment with where I want to go. Now, one of the options you gave was stay with them and try to help them. It's a very beautiful and very noble idea. Sadly, it's one that countless millions of people have tried for God knows how long. As long as there have been humans, probably, we've tried to change each other. Whether to bring somebody out of drug addiction or alcohol addiction, to bring someone out of depression, to bring someone out of certain habits they have. And tragically, it almost never works. Our hearts are pure and full of love and compassion and generosity, and we want to help. But until and unless someone themselves decides not to want to change, because you get that a lot, right? People will say, I want to quit smoking. Truth is, if they really wanted to quit smoking, they'd quit. Plenty of people quit. Yes, it's difficult, absolutely. But they can do it. We actually do have control over what our fingers do. And if I really didn't want my fingers to smoke a cigarette, I could make them stop doing that. But what you get instead are a lot of people who want to quit. Meaning they know they should want to quit, but actually inside they're getting too much from either the addiction itself or from the helplessness of being addicted, the story around it. And so they don't really want to quit. Their intellectual mind says, you really should want to quit. So they're wanting to want to quit. And the problem with people like that, as wonderful and loving and divine as they are, is they can't actually be helped. Until someone is at their wit's end, or what we call hits bottom, and says, I am willing to do whatever it takes to change. To let go of patterns, to let go of identities, to let go of stories. To hand over all my money to you so I don't use it to buy drugs, whatever it is, willing to do anything. Only then are they helpable. And a lot of people, a lot of very, very beautifully intentioned people with beautiful hearts, suffer a lot in trying to help someone who can't or won't be helped. And instead what ends up happening is we actually catch the illness. Hence why I began with the COVID experience. It is why your parents would say, keep a safe distance. Because energetically, we pick up from people around us. In satsang, the word satsang, there's two parts, sat and Sang. Sat means truth, and Sang, or Sangha, means in the association of, in the community of. And in the Hindu tradition, in the Buddhist tradition, our Sangha, our community, people with whom we interact and spend time, is critical. In fact, one of the core prayers in Buddhism says, Buddham Sharanam Gacchami, Dhammam Sharanam Gacchami, Sangam Sharanam Gacchami. And it means I take refuge in the Buddha. I take refuge in the Dharma, the teachings, the right way. I take refuge in the Sangha. So the three most important things in our lives in the Buddhist tradition are the Buddha, inside us, the way of the Buddha, the Dharma, the teachings, and our community. And this is why your parents are saying, stay away, because they know. They've seen it. Chances are they've, with their beautiful hearts, have tried to change people in your situation as well. And what they're trying to do is protect you. Love that person, but take care of yourself. It's like if someone's got COVID, you don't do either them or you any benefit by being close to them without masks just to feed them something. Well, then you're just going to get sick, then you're going to be useless to them and to yourself and to everyone. You're much better off working out a way where they can get the food they need and you stay safe. In the same way, I'm not saying drop this person like a hot potato and just forget they ever existed. Love them. Let them know you're there. But from a distance. Not in a way where energetically they are leaking on you. Because that's what happens. People energetically, they leak on us. We know what it's like to be around someone who's just constantly talking nonsense. Right? Someone who's just really negative, a gossip, a this, and it's like, when can I get out of here? Like just energetically, it's really tiring to be around that person. And we gravitate instead to the energy of people who are not just more enjoyable to be around, but it's actually healthier for us. That's why we gravitate toward it. Energetically, we know this person is healthy for me. This person, as much as the fun-loving gossiper in my own mind might enjoy being with them, is really not so healthy for me. And so in the same way, you're going to have to take care of yourself. It's not selfish. It's critical. And maybe that person will change. Look, if you're important enough to them, if you're as important to them as they are to you, maybe they'll change so they can be near you. And maybe not. Every one of us on spiritual paths has had to have some relationships that just drop off. Sometimes it's an actual break. Sometimes it's more just a matter of you get more and more distant, more and more distant, more and more distant, and eventually it just fizzles out. We've all had to do that. Because we've all had relationships that are no longer conducive to the path that we're on. So take care of your capital S self, and then take care of others, right? It's like in the plane, they say first put on your own gas mask, oxygen mask, and then help others. Because if you try to help others first without putting yours on, you're going to die. And then you're not going to be a help to anyone. So you first put yours on, and then you can help so many. So you first take care of yourself, get yourself strong, grounded, anchored. And then you'll be able to be much more of a help to so many.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
OMTimes magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth Radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Like Baldwin with People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. I grew up loving circuses and other traveling animal shows, but it never occurred to me what life might be like for the animals. Training wild animals to do things they don't understand takes force. Routine discipline with a hook or whip with the heel of a boot shows the animal exactly who's the boss. Don't patronize animal acts. Please contact People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals.
757-622-PETA.
Welcome back. This is Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati with inspiration and transformation. The clue to know that you're going to heal is you making the decision that you're going to heal. You don't have to wait till next life. That's a choice you can make. We've been given free will. Yes, we've got destiny. Yes, we've got karmic fruit from past actions. That's what has led to the situation from which you need to heal. That's what led to whatever it is that happened to you that now you are suffering from. That gave you that situation, that experience. You could say it was your destiny to have that happen. Okay. But now what do you do with it? Now it's up to you. Either you can keep suffering, identified as the one to whom it happened, or you can choose to heal. And when you choose to heal, the issue is that every choice has pros and cons, right? Even things that seem like there's only pros, only positives, they actually have negatives as well. So for example, healing is something that seems like it's only positive. Like, who wouldn't want to heal? The issue is that we've wrapped our identities around that which has happened to us. There's a whole lot of us that holds on to it. Maybe based on what's happened, I've developed ways of living. Maybe I've developed addictions. Maybe I've developed depression or anxiety. Maybe I've developed a personality style. Get angry really easily, or I'm just really sensitive, or whatever it may be, but I've developed a personality around it. Maybe I've developed some personal traits and characteristics. Say, well, I am like this because. That's just who I am because. We make some life choices based on that. Based on what's happened to us, based on these personalities, based on these traits, we make some decisions. No, I can't possibly take the risk of that because I am like this. Can't take the risk of that because I'm very sensitive, and if I get rejected, well, then I will fall back into my addiction, for example. In order to maintain my sobriety, I have to avoid any kind of trigger, taking a risk, the possibility of rejection, the possibility of failure could trigger me. Therefore, I have to play it very safe and small. I was abandoned, which means that anything that might possibly make me feel abandoned could throw me back into alcoholism, drug addictions. Therefore, I can't love. I can't trust. Because when you love and trust, sometimes you get abandoned. And because of what happened, I have that trigger. And therefore, I should never trust, love, be in relationship. So we make all kinds of choices based on that which happened. Now, if you suddenly start talking about healing what has happened, well, now I have to suddenly rearrange how I think about myself. Now suddenly I have no reason to not take the risk. I fail, okay. It happens. I get rejected, okay. It happens. Someone betrays me or abandons me, okay, it happens. But I'm not going to not love, trust, take the risk out of thinking I'm small because, see, now I've healed. But that's a whole new life transformation that we have to be prepared for. And so this is a conversation you need to have with yourself. If you haven't healed to date, you need to ask yourself, what am I gaining? What am I gaining from not being healed? An excuse to live the way I'm living? A nice thick wall around myself that I think I've erected to protect myself, but that actually is just suffocating me, killing me on the inside? What am I gaining from not healing? Sometimes that attachment is to the person who hurt us also. Sometimes it's really important for us to hold on to that hurt so that we don't have to deal with that person, especially if they're a family member. You get a lot of situations with people where they've been hurt by a family member and then for years or decades or the rest of life just don't talk to that person because they were hurt. And then, of course, if you heal, well, then suddenly now, what's your excuse for not talking to this family member? But talking to someone who has hurt you is scary. Not necessarily from a perspective of getting hurt again, but just it's vulnerable. It requires a level of vulnerability. And so a lot of times it's just easier to hold on to the hurt. If I can stay hurt, then I don't have to talk to you. I don't have to be vulnerable. I don't have to be open. So ask yourself, what am I gaining from not healing? And then ask yourself if it's worth it. In my life, I found it wasn't worth it. Just wasn't worth it. There was so much of life to be lived. But in order to live, I had to heal. In order to heal, I had to forgive and let go. And I had good reason to hold on. I had a good story. But it just wasn't worth it. When you weigh the safety of the familiarity of your story on the one hand, and the whole possibility of life on the other hand, it's just not worth it. But you've got to be convinced of that. And the moment you're convinced, then you'll begin to heal. And you're in such a beautiful place on the banks of Ganga. Ganga's the river of healing. Just once you've decided you're ready, just go and stand in our waters and, okay, Jai Ganga. Have a dip. You owe it to yourself.
This is OTR-FM, part of the IOM radio network.
OMTimes magazine is one of the leading online content providers of positivity, wellness, and personal empowerment. A philanthropic organization, their net proceeds are funneled to support worldwide charity initiatives via Humanity Healing International. Through their commitment to creating community and providing conscious content, they aspire to uplift humanity on a global scale. OMTimes, co-creating a more conscious lifestyle.
Do you have time to read that inspiring book or that blog post you've been meaning to get to? In your busy world, how do you improve yourself and keep your life going? I'm Lisa Kay, and my Between Heaven and Earth radio show can transform your life just by listening. Be uplifted with inspiring topics, positive stories, and ideas that really work. Between Heaven and Earth Radio is conscious living for your soul, every Wednesday at 4 p.m. Eastern Time.
Like Baldwin with People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals. I grew up loving circuses and other traveling animal shows, but it never occurred to me what life might be like for the animals. Training wild animals to do things they don't understand takes force. Routine discipline with a hook or whip with the heel of a boot shows the animal exactly who's the boss. Don't patronize animal acts. Please contact People for the Ethical Treatment of Animals.
757-622-PETA.
Welcome back. This is Sadhvi Bhagawati Saraswati with inspiration and transformation. True giving is two things, I think. Two different possibilities. One of them is we give of ourselves. We give truly of ourselves. And it might be our money, it might be our resources, but we give an amount and we give in a way that it impacts us, that it's not what is the bare minimum I can give without thinking about it. But we give really of ourselves. We give, if we're giving money or resources, we're giving in a way that requires us to be aware that we're really sacrificing something. We're giving of that which we have, and it's going to impact us in some way. Or maybe we give of ourselves through our time, through volunteering, through sharing our time, our abilities, our skills, either through doing work. Maybe we're stuffing envelopes for charity. Maybe we're designing websites or brochures. Maybe we are, rolling burritos or, working in a soup kitchen. Giving of time, giving of abilities. Maybe we're teaching kids to read, tutoring. Maybe we're reading to the blind, whatever it may be. But we give of our time or our skills, our energy. We give our love. Giving our love is one of the greatest gifts. People are hungry for love these days. Giving love. That presence in friendship, in understanding, in love, taking out time to take a walk with or have a cup of tea with or a meal with someone you know is going through a hard time, someone who's alone. So I think that's one way of real giving, is giving of our actual self to another. And I think the other way of real giving, in a way, is going to sound like the opposite, but they're both very deep spiritual practices, is giving simply as though we are nothing more but a channel through which giving is happening. So it's not, I'm giving you of myself. It's not my money or my resources or my skills or my abilities. But it's giving as in, I'm this empty channel, this empty vehicle through which it's happening, like through this microphone, satsang is happening. But at the end of satsang, the microphone's not going to get up and take a bow and say, wasn't I great? Because if the microphone had some kind of consciousness, it would be aware that it was just, all it was doing was relaying sound. Or the camera or the internet, all these people joining us all over the world. The camera is not going to take a bow at the end of satsang and sort of expect everyone from all over the world to sing its praises for the satsang it provided. It understands it's a vehicle, it's an instrument. Satsang is happening through it. But in the same way, for me, as the mouth through which it comes, for me at the end, to take a literal or a metaphoric bow, to have this idea of, wasn't that great, is actually just as ridiculous. Because in the same way that the microphone is just a channel, the camera is just an instrument, well, so am I. For that which is being spoken, that which is being given by the divine. And so I think that's the other way to give, and whether it's our money or our resources or our skills, is this awareness that nothing is mine. Everything I have, everything I am is just a flow of grace. I just happen to be the vehicle through which it flows. It would be like the dirt on the riverbed of Ganga, saying, Acha, pranam karo mera ko. Do pranam to me, bow to me, pray to me. Why? You're dirt. Well, no. See, I'm the dirt. I'm the dirt bringing you Ganga, like I'm the riverbed. If I weren't there, you wouldn't have Ganga. I am the riverbed that brings Ganga to your God. And on some very literal level, that's true. But obviously, the whole thing is the grace of Ganga that just happens to be flowing through that riverbed. In the same way that whatever we are able to give is just the grace of the divine flowing through us, using us to give. And so I think that's the other way of real giving, is this awareness that I'm just being used. And it's so beautiful, and it's such a blessing to be able to be used like this, but not to be like the riverbed that thinks it's, the best thing in the world because Ganga chose to flow through it. But just to realize that it's blessed to happen to be the path she chose to flow. So I think if we use both of those, then that giving becomes deep and real. And a beautiful experience for us as the giver.
This brings to a close this hour of inspiration and transformation. Thank you so much for joining me. I'm so glad to be together with you all each week, and I look forward to being together again next Thursday, same time, on OMTimes Radio.
Thank you.